A team is supposed to harness unique talents to make us better as a group than we would be individually.
Welcome to the podcast about communication in business. I'm your host, George Torok. Did you know that I'm known as the speech coach for executives? That's because I help business leaders deliver the intended message for greater success. And we do that through one-on-one coaching or group training for the team. When you listen to this podcast, you will hear insights and perspectives from communication experts from around the world. My guest today is Mark Murphy. Here's 3 facts that I think you should know about him. 1, he is a New York Times best-selling author with books including Hiring for Attitude, 100 Percenters, and his latest, Team Players, the 5 critical roles you need to build a winning team. 2, Mark's research has studied more than 1 million leaders, and the studies included why new hires fail. Oh, that would be a must read. Oh, even more important, why CEOs get fired, and why high performers can be less engaged than low performers. And 3, even though Mark's latest book is on teams, for much of his career, he didn't love working on teams. But discovering how high-performing teams celebrate and leverage different roles rather than forcing everyone into the same mold, completely transformed his perspective on what makes teamwork genuine rewarding. Mark Murphy, welcome to Your Intended Message.
George, thank you so much for having me. It's just a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor. So thank you.
Delighted to be talking with you, Mark. And I'm going to pick up on that last point that you didn't originally love teams because I know I went through that for quite some time too. And my thought was, and I was only able to tell a few people who really understood me this phrase because it could come across the wrong way. But my thought was, I'm not a team player because I don't like working with stupid people.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I am very much the same way. And that was one of the things for a lot of folks, especially that have, a reasonably high achievement drive, they want to get things done. Being stuck in a room, especially when we're being layered on with like lots of forced fun, team bonding kind of activities. And it's like, listen, could we just like get some work done here? And honestly, it wasn't really until I started studying teams and realized, you know what? The best teams actually don't do that to their star players. They kind of let their star players do really good work. They harness their uniquenesses. They don't try and sand off all of the rough edges. And instead, they focus less time on all the forced fun. Let's go, build a rocket ship out of macaroni together. And they spend more time figuring out what is it that you do really well. And let's just let you do that thing because that's how you're going to make a valuable contribution to this group. And so that was, and I mean, sounds like you had very much, same kind of life experience as I had, which is like, oh, man, you're making it hard on me to get stuff done here.
Yeah, and I've seen that build the macaroni spaceship thing and thinking, what a stupid thing to do. What's that got to do with anything?
And I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this in your own life that some of these activities are so uncorrelated, sometimes even inversely correlated to the jobs we're being asked to do in this group. Ostensibly, a team is supposed to harness unique talents to make us better as a group than we would be individually. It's funny. I've never sat down and really figured out a good word, maybe you have one, for the opposite of synergy. Synergy, creating a whole greater than the sum of its parts. But a lot of times in groups, what we get is the opposite of that. It's like whatever we would be additively, we're actually less than that because we spend so much time having to kind of, jump over the various hurdles. I don't know if you have a better word. I used to call it dyssynergy. I'm like, honestly, I don't have a better word for it, but that's what it felt like a lot.
And naturally, my mind is searching for a word, and I'm not finding the exact word. But the first word that came to mind was chaos. But and I think it's worse than that. And yes, and on the team building activity. So here's another one. Have you heard of let's go throw axes to build teams? And I'm thinking, no, that's not how I want to use the axe.
Exactly. It's and it's funny because I do actually like axe throwing. Like my wife and I have done it for date night, and it's great. Like, okay, this is a fun date night. You know what it's not a great thing for is when I'm trying to get out of the office because I want to actually get some work done, and I would like not to spend my free time at the office. Like, I'd like to save the axe throwing for like. We've gone with our kids. We've done it for date night. We've gone with friends. Like, yeah, I am down with axe throwing as like a stupid fun Saturday night activity. I love it. But that's not what I want to do with work people. I want to like do really good work, then wrap a bow on it, and you let me do my stuff. I'll let you do your stuff, and then yeah, we'll go spend our free time elsewhere. And that's there are a lot of people that are not their major motivator being on a team is not, oh, this is a substitute for friends. No, it is supposed to help us get better work done. And, and I would imagine that people listening to your intended message are not here because they just needed another friend. They're here because they want to figure out how to be great, how to do awesome things professionally. And spending time in a group at work doing all of that forced fun stuff is not the best avenue for that.
And I'm so glad you put it in and pointed that out, that teams are not meant to be friends. It might be, but that's not the measure of success of being friends. And even worse is when someone from HR comes in and says, we're all family here. Really? No.
Exactly. I mean, it's it's like you even look at a sports team. Like, yeah, if you come out of it and you happen to get a friend that you're lifelong friends with, I have a few, but that's not the goal. The goal is we're here to win stuff at our job. It's to advance our careers, to succeed with whatever the project is that we happen to be working on, grow revenue, cut the cost, whatever we do. But it's ultimately, to what extent can this person complement my skills and bring something that I don't have so that they can help us collectively hit this big target? And yeah, if 10 years down the road we end up being friends, cool, awesome. But it's going to take more than just what we did in this group. It's going to have to be, oh, it turns out we have some other, connection we happened to discover one night over a beer while we were at a conference, or, some random thing. Great, maybe. But again, not the goal at all. And the measure of the team, as you rightly pointed out, having a friend is not the measure of success. It is really about, okay, did we accomplish that thing that we're supposed to be accomplishing here?
And so I'm thinking, I'm on a team, and I don't like everyone on the team. Is that a problem? And if it is, what do I need to do to get around that?
So, first thing is, within reason, it's not a problem. So it works like this. In our research, what we discovered is that all high-performing teams have, in one form or another, 5 major roles that people play. So there's a director. The director is the person who is capable of making that final tough decision. Sometimes they don't have to do much because the group just coalesces, but sometimes there is a tough decision required and you need somebody, even if it annoys everybody else in the room, has to make that call. And that's where, yeah, you may not like that director for that period of time, but you need somebody to make that call or we're going to be stuck in this room forever. There are achievers. These are the people that are like, I don't need to be in charge. Just give me an assignment. I'm a doer. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to get to work. There's a stabilizer. This is the person that keeps you on track with deadlines and to-dos and timelines and make sure the trains run on time. There's a trailblazer, which is the person that brings those big out-of-the-box ideas, and they can sometimes be annoying as well because sometimes they're like, gang, we have been talking about this issue for 4 months now, and we are getting nowhere. Let's let's throw out everything we've done and do something radically different. That can be annoying. And then you have the harmonizer. And the harmonizer is sort of your diplomat EQ person. And they're the person that kind of has their eyes on everybody else in the room going, okay, we may not love each other, but is it toxic? No. Okay, then we're cool. If it gets toxic, then the harmonizer will intervene and, smooth over some of those ruffled feathers enough that we can actually work together. But it doesn't have to be kumbaya 24/7. So if you have those 5 roles, I don't have to love you. I don't have to want to hang out with you outside of work. But if you bring something, one of these 5 roles that I don't bring, and you are adding value to the group and I'm adding value and we complement each other, rock on. Because what ends up happening is that I sometimes liken it to running a marathon, or rather training for a marathon. It's training for a marathon. I've done a couple, and you can tell by looking at me, I am not the physique of a natural runner. It is just pure force of will. I am like a sausage with feet. And there are many, many days when going out for a run, it is miserable. It is the last thing I want to do. The reason I do it is that the payoff of having accomplished it, I'm not saying get a good time because I don't get good times, but finishing for me I do that, for me, that's good. It's the pleasure I get, the sense of accomplishment I get from that offsets all of the annoyance and pain I felt every step along the way. And with a team, there are days where this is the last people you want to talk to, but you know that they're necessary. And so that's the thing is this run is going to stink. This is going to feel, it's cold outside. It's wet. It is miserable. But the payoff at the end, that's what I'm holding on to. And so, I'm sure you've got things in your life as well where it's this is not fun today, but it's necessary to get to where I want to get to.
And definitely, and in fact, I also have had the marathon experience, and training is not fun. There's nothing, you can't describe it as fun, and you do it because that's the only way you're going to be able to finish the marathon. And my goal was not to make a time; it was again to finish. When the whole way through, and then when you're running the race, you're having this inner dispute with yourself. Oh, look at everyone else. Oh, they're better than me. They look better. They're faster. How could that guy pass me? He's only got one leg and a crutch. He's beating me. And then and the voice inside you saying, "Stop! Don't do this. You're stupid. You shouldn't be doing this." And then the instant you cross that finish line, the voice changes in your head and goes, "See, I told you could do it." I knew it all the time.
Exactly. I once got passed by an 84-year-old man and a woman with a stroller who had given birth 2 months prior. And okay, that gives you some sense as to where I'm running. But you are so right that it is that second voice, that voice change at the end that is and kind of like in other painful experiences, it's you almost can push aside the pain along the way because you got the second voice kicked in. And the irony is, if we had given up, we wouldn't have gotten to that second voice. And it was the second voice that made the whole thing worth it in the first place. So,
And Mark, when you're working with teams, when you're helping organizations work with their teams and put their teams together, how do you get the team members in the right mindsets from the beginning?
so one big thing, and it's an insanely simple exercise when you're with a group, is simply ask everybody in the room either what role do you think you are best suited to play, or one that's even slightly better than that is what role would others say that you most typically play on the team? And the reason why that question's even a little bit better is a phenomenon that you well know, meta-perception. And it is that people are better at judging what others think about us than we are sometimes judging ourselves. And so it's a weird phenomenon that if you ask people, what role would you say others think you most typically play or are best suited to play? And then what you do is you get a sense as to what roles do I have in the room. Then if it turns out that you don't have a stabilizer, you don't have the to-do person, for example, but you have somebody that's close enough, then you ask a second question is, okay, who would like to take on the stabilizer role here? Who feels like this is a role they'd either like to step into or a role they'd like to develop? And, I find it interesting from a coaching point of view. If you look at a team and you find that the team is unbalanced, then you go, okay, what are some other roles? What's a second role for each person in the room that you would like to develop? What you tend to find is that now you can start to fill out the roles, even if it's not their primary first thing they do, it may be a role they want to develop. And so if I say, okay, well, I'm typically a trailblazer, but I would like to develop some of those, maybe some of that director ability. Okay, well, if we're lacking a director, maybe I could take that on. But if you have somebody that is utterly lacking in, EQ, and I would imagine you've seen people in your coaching work where they come to you and you're like, ooh, this one's going to be a toughie. And like this one's, you're going to, I'm earning my fees on this one. Cause I've seen groups where it's like, ooh, okay, we're going to be stretching here to find somebody that can play the harmonizer role. But, okay, we're going to work on this, but it gives you a sense as to like, how already suited are we? And how much work are we going to have to do? And there are cases where you may find like, we got to bring in somebody else to this team. Like we are really missing somebody who can fulfill this role. Like we have nobody with even a remote sense of like keeping us on track or making tough decisions. We got to go find somebody to help us, or we're going to be spinning our wheels ad infinitum here. So that gives you a pretty good sense as to what do I have? What am I missing? And then can I pick from within? Or do I have to go out and get somebody else from a different part of the company, for example?
So we might look at our team and say, okay, first option is who wants to take on a second role, another role. You're good at this, but we also need this other quality, and who would like to fit into that role? So that gives people a chance to develop themselves on other aspects, become a more full type development instead of just being just one skill. All they've got is a slap shot. That's all they can do.
Mm-hmm.
But we need someone who can also cross check.
Yeah, and I like the way you put that with a more full development. So much of this, if you start to think about all of the roles that a team might need, a small business person, for example, at any point in time is going to have had to have played all of these roles. Now, some they may not love. Some they're very much doing it under duress. But, they've at a minimum grown an appreciation for it. So, for example, I am not in any sense a natural stabilizer. And it was one of the, when I built my company, it was one of the very first roles. I'm like, okay, I need that. Like, that's the first hole we have to fill. Now, I have a deep appreciation for it. So I could step in and fill it for a short period of time. It's not fun for me. I don't love doing it, but I have an appreciation for it. So at a minimum, I've grown enough that I can go, okay, I know how valuable that role is. Is it the one I want to play or the one I'm best suited to play? No, not really, but I can appreciate it. And, your phrase of the full development really brings out that there's so much more we can grow that is beyond like, normal seminars and formal development plans, but it's just even getting an appreciation. I have some empathy for the other roles on the team. I can appreciate the strength and the power and the talent they bring to this group. Even if I don't necessarily want to do it myself, I at least understand that this is what's necessary. And part of that too is having that self-awareness that says, yeah, this is, you know what? I do only have a slap shot right now. If I'm going to succeed at the next level, I am going to have to. It's not to say that I'm going to be, our team's enforcer here, but I got to be able to do a little something. Otherwise, I'm just going to be capped at this part of my career. I have to at least be able to take one step forward on this. And at least as long as I can recognize what I'm good at and what I still have yet to develop, that positions me to get to that next stage of my career.
And Mark, it's funny. I just got an inspiration for a model for a team, and I'm looking at the Marvel Avengers, and you look at them and you think about, okay, there's the Hulk, there's Captain America. They're nothing like each other, and there's Iron Man, and then there's the guy with the bow and arrow. Like, these people are totally different in skill set and strengths and weaknesses, but yet it is fiction, but it is a great depiction of a team working together.
It's funny you say that, because you're basically echoing Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, because the way he describes their senior leadership team, his executive team, now he went DC rather than Marvel, but he called them a legion of superheroes. And he said each person on this team brings a different superpower. And that is, some of them they are keyed into our customers and they have that empathy. Some are keyed towards where the future of technology is headed. Some it's operational detail. But he described it just like you just did. Oh, I mean, truly, the only difference is, DC versus Marvel. But he literally called them a legion of superheroes. And that is, I think, one of the best ways to think about this, is that if everybody does the same exact thing, well, okay, if we have a team where every single person on the team is really strong, like a Hulk, well, what happens when you come up against somebody with telekinetic or psychic abilities where now they can make you go to sleep instantly or they can float you in the sky? How are you going to punch things when you're being suspended in the air? Well, you need other skills. It'd be good to have somebody who can fly. It'd be good to have somebody who can, transport from one place to another. You need those abilities because you don't know on any given day what challenge or supervillain you're going to be coming up against, and your odds are gonna need a different mix. Somebody to take the lead today, somebody different to take the lead tomorrow, day after that, who knows? And that's exactly the metaphor. I love that.
And I think I heard something there that the leadership of the team can change over time.
Absolutely. And I call it an adaptive hierarchy. And the adaptive hierarchy is basically whoever is best suited, in the best position to take charge of that particular aspect of whatever you're working on, that's the person that's quote unquote in charge for that moment. So, for example, I like to think of it as like, okay, imagine a basketball team. You have your star player. There's 3 seconds left on the clock. You're down by 2. You need a 3-point shot to win the game. Now, the star player, everybody is covering the star player, but you got your 3-point specialist hanging out over in the wing. Okay, well, the good star player is going to look at that and basically say, you know what? I'm covered. Everybody is looking at me. And even though I'm quote unquote the star player and I'm quote unquote the leader of the team, the truth is I'm not the best person to take this shot right now. Even Michael Jordan realized this. That's why Steve Kerr was able to take last second shots and turn that into a Hall of Fame coaching career, is that Jordan realized at this moment, yeah, I'm Michael Jordan, right? You know, I'm most famous person, best athlete on the planet. Of course I'm the leader. But for the next 3 seconds, that little skinny dude over there, who's, 6'1" and $180, no, he's in charge right now. For the next 3 seconds, this is his team. It is his game. And that's an adaptive hierarchy. If it turns out that you've got a team and you are on a tight deadline and to-dos are falling by the wayside, even though you might be the director, you might need to turn to your stabilizer and go, you know what? You got to get us over the finish line here because you're the to-do person. You're the task calendar person, the milestones, the Gantt charts. You can bring some order to this chaos. And right now, I'm not the best person for that. You're the best person for that. And that's what great teams do is they don't stand on rigid hierarchies and flexible hierarchies. They're adaptive. Whatever the challenge says we need at the moment, that's what we need. And that's who's taking lead on this.
Mark, when a team is working on a project and they run into places where they stall, they're just not making progress. They're spinning their wheels. They're not making progress. Do they look at these strengths and seeing, okay, where are we failing right now? Where do we need more strength? What area? And therefore, who is that? And how can we support that person?
That's exactly it. That is right there. That is absolutely the recipe. Is you basically look at, okay, we're spinning our wheels. Why? Why are we spinning our wheels? Now, we could be spinning our wheels because we're spending the first half of every one of our meetings just arguing with each other or fighting with each other, and it's like getting toxic. Or it could be that we can't make a decision, that nobody on the team is willing to step up and say, folks, we've discussed this for 45 minutes already. We gotta just pick one. Pick A or B. That's it. Just choose a side. Or it could be that our ideas are just stale and we've been trying the same thing over and over and there's no freshness to it. We need we got to get outside of our own heads here and get out of the box a little bit because nothing we're doing is working. Or it could be that, we're not tracking accountabilities. Like we leave every meeting and it's like, okay, you do this and this and this and you do this and this, but then we never hold anybody accountable for showing up at the next meeting not having done it. Whichever one of those problems it is, that's basically going to tell you exactly who needs to be the oomph and take charge of this next part of the team to get us unstuck. Because if it's that we've been discussing the same thing and every time we're about to take a vote, somebody says, well, maybe we should just table it to next week. Maybe we'll get some more data. And no, okay. Now it's time for a director to step in. Or if it's that, nobody's tracking any of our to-dos, like what we said at the end of last meeting, okay, well, then you need a stabilizer and so on and so forth. So, yeah, the way you put it is the essential first step is, for everybody listening, just do what George just said and basically figure out first why you're stuck. And then the why, because you're not just stuck. You could be stuck for a dozen different reasons. Is just do what George just said. Figure out why you're stuck. And then that will tell you what your team actually needs.
For people who would like to learn more about how to build better teams, get a hold of Mark's book. And that is team players, the 5 critical roles you need to build a winning team. And you can find a link to his website below, and you can find that book on Amazon and all the bookstores. Mark, as we prepare to wrap up, imagine that you're sitting with a new team leader who's now excited because they're going to lead. They're excited and they're frightened of this new responsibility. They're going to lead this team on a project that's important to the direction of the company, of the organization. If you could offer this new team leader 1, 2, or 3 pieces of advice to approach this team project, what might that advice be?
One of the biggest mistakes I see new team leaders make is feeling like they have to fulfill all of the roles. I heard this from a new team leader I think it was yesterday. And she was like, listen, I'm expected that I have to play all of these roles. I have to keep everybody on track and make the tough decisions. And how do I handle that? I go, you stop doing that. Because if you can accept that you don't have to do everything, let other people on the team take pieces of that work off your plate. 2 amazing things happen. 1, your life gets easier. And number 2, their buy-in goes through the roof because now they are owning part of this. You'll see this sometimes with CEO groups that get together every month or every quarter. And so you get this group of CEOs and they're like, okay, this is our private sharing time. And they come together and you will see the good ones, they divvy up the responsibility. So one person's like, okay, well, I'm going to be the moderator. Another person's like, well, I'm going to be the timekeeper. Another person's like, I'm going to monitor our language and make sure we're not getting in conflict. Another person's like, well, I'm going to manage the parking lot so we have accountability from meeting to meeting. They just divvy up the roles because, A, it's too much work for one person and it's a pain. Number 2 is that everybody else now owns a piece of the group's success. And so that is the biggest mistake I see new team leaders make, is thinking they have to be chief cook and bottle washer. Don't. Break up the work and allow the team. This way too, you're not on an island. And if things get a little off track, well, whose career is at risk? Yours, unless you get more support and buy-in from everybody else on the team. That's what I would want.
Powerful advice. My guest today is Mark Murphy, reminding you that you're not there to like and be friends with everyone on your team. You're there to accomplish the goal by leveraging the individual different strengths of your team. If you like what you heard, tell your friends and post your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, because that helps more listeners find us. Come back every week for more practical insights to help you deliver your intended message. I'm your host, George Torok.